There's a strange thing that starts happening once you cross over the ridge into your 40s. You look around at the guys you know, your old high school buddies, your coworkers at the shop, your next door neighbors, and you realize how many of them are quietly coming apart at the seams. It doesn't happen with some big dramatic explosion where everyone runs in to help. It's a slow deflation. It feels like a gradual disconnect that builds up so slowly you barely notice it day to day. Until one morning you look around and half the men in your life seem hollow. They are driving the truck. They are showing up to the job site. They are sitting at the kitchen table. But nobody feels really home. If you're a man feeling that creeping emptiness, or you love a man who does, today we're going to talk about why this happens. By the time we finish here, you will understand the hidden forces driving this breakdown and exactly how we start finding our footing again in a world that feels completely unhinged. I'm just a midlife guy who's spent years trying to operate a business, dealing with payroll and watching my friends and coworkers hit this exact same wall. We grew up thinking men were supposed to matter. We were trained from the time we could carry a toolbox to be providers, protectors, the bedrock people counted on when things got heavy. And somewhere along the way, while we were busy working late shifts and building our lives, the script changed. The rules got rewritten, but nobody handed us the new playbook. And a lot of us woke up in middle age feeling completely optional, expendable, like background extras in our own lives. Look around and you'll see it everywhere, honestly. We have more men living completely alone right now than at any other time in modern history. Millions of guys turning the key on an empty apartment night after night. They step into the dark and there's nothing but dead silence waiting for them. Nobody to talk to. Nobody who notices if you're struggling or if you didn't sleep a wink. A lot of men are quietly opting out of relationships completely. Not because they don't want connection, but because the whole thing feels impossible. Many women have built-in friend networks to lean on when life gets brutal. Most men don't. For us, the rules keep changing every single time we think we figured them out. The risk of failing again, of hurting someone, of watching another thing collapse. It just feels too heavy to carry. It makes a man want to pull his head down, crawl into his shell, and stop trying. Then you look at our careers. The old playbook, work hard, keep your head down, and your family will be secure, that got ripped out and replaced with gig work and constant uncertainty. The social clubs and community groups that once gave men a sense of true responsibility have mostly disappeared from our neighborhoods. Here in North America, recent surveys show nearly 1 in 2 men feel socially isolated. Among men who live alone, that number jumps to around 3 in 4. That is a massive amount of quiet desperation, sitting in dark rooms, staring at walls. And here's the real kicker to the whole situation. Most men feel like they have to carry every single ounce of this weight alone. Asking for help feels like admitting you can't hack it. It feels like telling the world you are failing the basic test of being a man. When you really talk to guys, late at night, when the beer's low and the mask finally slips, you hear the exact same line over and over. They look at you and say, I feel like I have to look out for myself because nobody else will. It's not bitterness talking.
It's pure, raw exhaustion. Men have spent years trying to keep up with a world that refuses to stop moving the goalposts. They adapt, they unlearn old patterns, they try to be better, they try to grow. And somehow, they still end up feeling like they're doing everything wrong. Let's talk about the paradox men are stuck in every single day. Most men still want to be good partners, involved fathers, reliable friends, useful human beings. We want to fix things, build things, help people. Those instincts didn't vanish from our biology. But the mixed messages we get from the culture are confusing as hell.
The world says, be vulnerable, open up, share your feelings. But when a man actually does it, when he drops the guard, shows the crack in his armor, that vulnerability often gets treated as a burden, as definitive proof he can't handle pressure when the chips are down. It gets used against him. The world says, be a provider. Most men still feel that weight in their bones. We worry about bills, mortgages, being the safety net for everyone. But if you express anxiety about that responsibility, it gets written off as outdated thinking. You're told you're controlling, stuck in the past.
And don't get me started on how dads are treated. We say we want caring, empathetic men. Then we turn on a sitcom and every dad is a clueless buffoon who can't handle basic child care. The tired trope. The incompetent father who needs his wife to manage everything because he's basically just another kid in the house. Ugh. Meanwhile, men who actually show up fully as fathers often get suspicious looks at playgrounds just for being alone with their own kids. So guys feel lost. They're trying. They're showing up. They're working on themselves. But every move feels wrong. There's no clear path. Just a minefield of contradictory expectations where any choice seems like the wrong one. You get penalized for staying back, and you get judged for stepping forward.
Let me own one piece of this myself, because it still bothers me to think about. A few years ago, I bought an old, heavy, cast-iron industrial drill press for this shop. It weighed about 250 pounds. It was sitting in the back of my truck, and it needed to be hoisted onto a high wooden bench. It was a Sunday evening, cold, raining outside. I could have phoned my buddy Dave, or waited until Monday for help. I was stressed about my business, feeling isolated, and I wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need anybody. I rigged up a sketchy nylon strap around the main column, stood on a milk crate, and tried to lift the whole thing by myself. The strap slipped on the oily metal. The machine shifted, and instead of letting it drop, I twisted my torso to catch it by the motor housing. A blinding flash of pain went straight down my lower back. My knees buckled, and that 250-pound iron beast crashed straight onto the concrete floor, shattering the base and punching a massive hole through the shop drywall. I landed flat on my back on the cold concrete. I couldn't move. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe. My phone was sitting 3 feet away on the workbench, completely out of reach. I spent 2 hours lying there, in the dark, smelling wood dust and old grease, staring at the ceiling, waiting for my wife to wonder why I hadn't come in for dinner. I felt like a complete moron. And that's what a lot of men do with life. We try to hoist the whole weight alone, out of pure stubborn pride, until something important snaps. That brings us to the loneliness epidemic nobody really wants to name. Many women have at least some built-in friend networks. They share, talk, vent, support each other through texts and coffee dates and check-ins. When something goes wrong, they have people to call. Most men don't have anything close to that. Male friendships often fade after 35. Life gets busy with careers, marriages, kids, mortgages. The friends you saw every weekend become people you text happy birthday to once a year, if that. Spontaneous hangouts vanish. Deep conversations never happen because everyone's too tired or stressed or just trying to survive their own week. We tell ourselves we will catch up next month, but next month becomes next year. And eventually, the connection just dies out completely. And so guys get isolated. We lose our hangout spaces, the sports leagues, workshops, Saturday groups. Those places weren't therapy sessions, but they mattered. Men could stand side by side, work on something with their hands, and feel less alone without having to perfectly explain what they were feeling. Those traditional third places, bowling alleys, corner bars, union halls, church groups, hobby clubs, have been disappearing for decades. As they vanish, loneliness and mental health struggles rise right alongside them. Researchers keep warning us about this, but the spaces keep closing. What replaces them? Usually just work, home, and the glowing screen in between. Without that social infrastructure, men end up living entirely in their own heads. That's where the darkness grows. Not because men are weak, but because humans aren't built to do life alone. Isolation breeds rumination. Rumination breeds despair. And despair, left unchecked, leads to the numbers we don't like to talk about. The suicide stats, the addiction rates, the quiet epidemic of men who simply give up. Yet men are still much less likely to reach out for help, even when they're drowning. They drown in silence. Here's what really stings. Men still feel deeply defined by providing, not just money, but purpose. We want to contribute, protect, build, be needed. Those aren't toxic traits. They're deeply human needs. The need to matter, to make a positive difference for the people you care about. Take those roles away, and you don't just strip a job title. You strip identity. Modern life does that over and over. Unstable careers, industries vanishing, companies showing no loyalty, dating reduced to swipes, families scattered across the country. It makes a guy feel like he's standing on shifting sand. Society demands more from men while rewarding them less. We're told to be better, but also told we're the problem. Even men who genuinely do the work, read the books, go to therapy, carry the emotional load, end up in a strange limbo where nothing they do feels quite right. No wonder it feels like we're failing a test we never signed up to take. The rules change, the test changes, and we keep losing. So, what do men actually need? It's not coddling, not sympathy. Definitely not another motivational poster with a wolf telling you to grind harder. What men really need, especially in midlife, is actually pretty straightforward. We need real community, actual friends, honest conversations, physical spaces where men can show up without performing. It doesn't have to be therapy level deep, just real. Places where a guy can admit he's struggling without being seen as less than. Where vulnerability doesn't come with a social penalty. Where you can just be a flawed human being without constantly calculating whether you were doing it right.
That might look like a poker night where people actually talk between hands, a hiking group, a volunteer crew, a book club, a workshop where guys make things together. The format matters less than the consistency and the safety, knowing you can show up and be accepted. We need meaningful work, not database entry or a big job with a fancy title. Just something that makes a man feel useful and aligned with who he is now, not who he was at 25. Work that contributes something real, uses his skills and experience, and leaves him feeling like the day counted for something. For some, that's a career. For others, it's volunteering, mentoring, creating, fixing things in the neighborhood, coaching kids, or teaching a trade. The paycheck matters, but purpose matters just as much.
We need connection, partnerships, family, a sense of legacy, some relational tether that says you matter to someone who notices when you're off, someone whose life is genuinely better because you're in it. Men don't need romantic relationships to be whole, but we do need relationships where we can both give and receive care, where we're not just the problem solver, but a full person worthy of support. We need to know our absence would leave a real hole behind. And we need permission to be human. Men are not robots. We get tired. We get hurt. We need rest. We need help. Saying that out loud doesn't make you less of a man.
Owning your humanity might be the strongest thing you ever do. Admitting you're overwhelmed, asking for support, acknowledging you can't carry everything alone. Those aren't signs of weakness. They're signs of wisdom. Here's the truth most men won't say out loud. I don't want to dominate the world. I just want to feel valued in it. We're not chasing thrones. We're chasing stability, purpose, respect, companionship. A life that feels like ours, not one we're just surviving. We want to wake up with a reason to get out of bed. We want to go to sleep feeling like today counted. When men don't get those things, we usually don't explode. We shrink. We withdraw into work, distractions, addictions, or nothingness. We become ghosts in our own lives, going through the motions while feeling more and more disconnected. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Slowly, quietly, a different version of masculinity is forming. One built on true grit, strength without hardness, vulnerability without shame, provision without needing to be the sole provider, presence without perfection. A masculinity where men get to be whole human beings again, not machines, not villains, not jokes, not walking wallets, not disposable. Just men. Real, flawed, evolving men trying to build meaningful lives in a world changing faster than anyone prepared them for. This new masculinity honors what was valuable in traditional manhood: the dedication, responsibility, protective instinct, desire to build. At the same time, it means releasing what was harmful: emotional suppression, isolation, the pressure to be invulnerable, the shame around needing help. It's a masculinity where a man can be strong enough to cry, successful enough to admit failure, confident enough to ask questions, and secure enough to support other men instead of competing with them.
Maybe the first step in getting men okay is finally admitting that so many of us aren't. You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. You can't heal what you pretend doesn't hurt. And you can't support men who are struggling if everyone keeps pretending they're fine. So let's be honest. Men are not okay. A lot of us are barely holding on. That's not weakness. That's just the truth. And truth, uncomfortable as it is always the first step towards something better. It clears the air so we can breathe. If you're a man watching this and feeling seen, you're not alone. If you love a man who's struggling, your support matters more than you realize. And if you still think men just need to toughen up, consider that we've tried that for generations. It isn't working. The conversation starts here with honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to admit we're not okay, and the willingness to do something about it. We have to be willing to take the first step out of the dark. Think about one small step you can take this week to connect with another man in your life. Don't overthink it. When this video ends, pause, pull out your phone, and text one guy, "Hey man, how are you really doing?" That's where this shift begins. Let someone know they matter. If this helped you today, subscribe for more. We keep things grounded here.